The way Ralf normally likes to start is simply on a circle. And the two things he's looking for on the circle are the ground cover and the hind legs. How much is the horse stepping under? Activity in the walk. Those of you that have been riding with him for the last 2 days have heard that a lot. And the other thing that happens on a circle, if it's a little bit harder to see on the bigger circle, but when she goes into a smaller circle, you'll see it better, is that he will lower on the inside his pelvis. And that's our preparation work to get the horse properly suppled in the hind end for then the ongoing lateral work. Play around with the sizes. In this phase of the work, it's observation, and you can look when she's doing different sizes of circles, changes of direction. You observe how the head and neck are being held by the horse, how easily he allows her to change the flexion, change the positioning of the head and neck, because that is a prerequisite for her to be able to work with the hind end. When she is changing direction, she's paying attention to the head and neck positioning. She's also then able to deliberately influence how he's loading his shoulders, and with that loading of the shoulder, you then can get into a pelvic rotation. The horse needs to rotate properly, the inside pelvis downward and forward. If they don't do that, then it's very difficult for you to do lateral work, and you probably will never do flying changes. So the work on the circles is a very important work. It's something that you have to pay great attention to, even if you never plan on riding Grand Prix and you're never going to ride tempi changes. You are laying the foundation for the option to do that in this work. So you really need to think about what you're doing here, observe your horse, and don't consider this a wasted 10 minutes worth of warm-up, because that's not what it is. After this phase is finished,
Long range.
she is giving him a long range for a moment so he can relax again.
Wichtig ist aber beim Zügel ablegen, Fangverhalten. Ganz wichtig, ganz
The important thing about the long rein is that this is a phase for the horse to stretch its body and relax from a physical biomechanical point of view. It is, however, not a phase where you should change the ranking between you and your horse. So even on a long rein, you still dictate the tempo and you still dictate the direction. So the walk should not be a Sunday stroll in the park mosey around thing just because you're taking a break. Next step now is leg yield. The leg yield allows you to refine several things. It can get you refinement or better understanding on how the shoulder is loading. In the leg yield initially, if she's leg yielding the way she's going right now, right to left, she's loading the right shoulder a little bit more. If that works correctly, then she can attack the right pelvis. As the right pelvis and the right hind leg is dropping underneath, you can see, well, she's going to turn around maybe or go again. You're going to see it the other way. A good indicator if the horse is correct in the pelvic rotation is if the tail is slightly pointing away from the direction. So in this case, if the tail is going somewhere, it should be going slightly to the left. If he is taking his tail to the right, then the rotation in the pelvis is incorrect. So it's an easy thing for somebody on the ground to see that. The other thing that is important is when you are doing this properly, where she's looking at bringing the right hind leg in a more shallow angle so that the horse is stepping towards the center of gravity. What she gets is she gets an extreme with that rotation off the pelvis on the other side. She gets a really good stretch in this area of the horse's body. So it's, again, a very good preparation for all your upper lateral work. And if you make the angle too big, could you make the angle like way too big for a second? If you make the angle way too big, what you see is all you get is you get crossing and you're starting to lose that drop on the pelvis and you don't get that rotation through anymore. That's why it doesn't make any sense to make such a steep angle. Most horses though, because it's a lot easier for them because they don't have to reach under, that's what they offer you. So you have to be careful if you want to use this as a gymnasticizing exercise, how you use it, and be aware of what's happening in the horse's body. When it works well on a straight line, we take it on bent lines, which improves the agility. Sometimes on bent lines you do get a little bit of a bigger angle, get a little bit more sideways than forward reach.
Verfeinerung der Arbeit auf der privaten Linie im Rahmen von Balance, also auch die Herausforderung im Reiten selbst nicht versteht. Einerseits und andererseits entsteht dann daraus Bewegungsbewandtheit.
What you get with this is a refinement, of course, off that leg yield. It refines the rider as well because the rider needs to be balanced, centered, needs to be able, in this case, she is bringing her weight a teeny tiny little bit ahead. She needs to bring her weight a teeny tiny little bit to the left to get him through those turns. It refines, of course, the leg yield for the horse as well, and it improves the agility in the hind end. And you can play with this. What she's doing now is she's making it smaller and smaller. can make it so small that he turns around his hind end. You can of course also change the leg yield out of this, go the other way. Leg yield is not limited to any particular place in the arena nowadays, because in horse shows it only shows up from center line out or to center line. A lot of people only practice it that way, but we like to use it in a different way to improve the agility. Turn him around the hind end. So here you're expecting, you don't really expect a pirouette, you're expecting something where he keeps stepping, and then you can turn him around the forehead. Still in the leg yield. And again, it's a walking turn. We want the forehead to keep moving. You don't want the forehead to stop. That is not so good intended. You can play this game a couple times and just get them a lot more mobile. You get more agility in the hind end. Vielleicht nochmal andere Fragen bekommen.
Sie geht jetzt ins Bett rein und dann kannst du hinten sie auskommen.
Yeah. The other thing you can do with leg yield is you can switch it a couple times. So I'll come back on center line and then just keep changing the leg yield on center line. When you do that, what is important is that you change your upper body, you just turn in your shoulders. And you play a little bit with the range of change of flexion, that's it. In this case, the horse should change as a unit, as one piece. So you're basically flip-flopping him under the saddle.
Unheimlich viele Möglichkeiten, im Übertreten des Pferds zu arbeiten.
And as you can see with leg yield, you can play for a whole hour. You don't have to do anything else, and afterwards you have a horse that is very supple, that is worked in the hind end. If you have, for example, a cold day and you don't really want to get the horse sweaty, if you have all of these different options, then you could easily spend 40, 50 minutes doing just that, and you would have a horse that is properly worked afterwards, that's happy that you can put back in the barn, and you know that you've done a lot of work independent of trot or canter or anything like that.
Can you do it too much?
If you, I think if you don't watch your angles, and of course if they start running through the shoulder, you can overload. You can overload the shoulder, so you have to be careful with that.
Wichtig ist in der ersten Trabphase, mal so ein bisschen drauf zu schauen, dass ich auf die Taktreihe, dass man auch ein bisschen auf die Schwunghaftigkeit achtet.
When you first start the trot, after your walk phase, the important thing here is that she first finds rhythm in the trot, that she finds regularity in the trot, so it's not so much about the tempo. You don't necessarily want this terribly fast. You first give the horse and the rider a moment to find a good rhythm together.
Abstimmung zur Reduktion mit Abwasserung an sich. Nein, es geht nicht, dass man die Vorbereitung macht, die
If you want to have trot that has good suspension, good energy, you need to warm up the horse in the walk the way we just did, so that all the muscles, all the tendons, everything is properly warmed up. There is a lot of suppleness in the horse already. Ralf doesn't believe in warming up in the trot right away. You see a lot of people that come in the arena, they walk half around and then they start trotting and they think that's a warm-up. You can actually do a fair amount of damage to the tendons, a fair amount of damage to the muscling if you do that.
Vorbereitung, um das Pferd klar fähig zu machen.
And this is all work that we did right now to prepare the horse for some carrying ability.
Und jetzt kommt der nächste Schritt, Arbeit, das Pferd herangeführt und die Tragkraft.
And if you have done the proper preparation for the horse to say, okay, now you can carry, now we're going to do some exercises to actually work on carrying power.
Starten der Schulterring. Ein bisschen in die Schulter reinschalten, dass man darauf achten muss, von der Halsstellung her, von der Schulterlast und Beckenbeweglichkeit.
Okay, in the shoulder in, you'll have to look at a couple things. A lot of horses offer more bend than necessary in the shoulder in. A lot of riders try to create shoulder in simply by pulling the neck in.